Hey guys, so today we're going to do the topic of completing the square, okay? This is a very simple topic, but it's a topic you need to do before we start the next topic, which is circles. So I just wanted to run it through and make sure you all were familiar with it. So in this topic, we just have a few steps we need to follow to get the answer, and nothing changes. You just need to follow these steps alone, and if you follow these steps correctly, you'll get the correct answer, okay? Now, this topic, the best way to do this is just through examples. So there is no theory and questions video, but rather everything is just combined into one, okay? So to complete the square, we have some steps we need to follow, okay? First, we put the x squared and the x term in brackets. We make the coefficient of x squared 1. Then we add inside the bracket half the coefficient of the x term, and then we subtract outside the same value. Okay, now this might sound kind of confusing, so it's best, why I said, to do it through an example. Okay, so let's say we have the quadratic equation x squared plus 4x plus 7. Okay, so this is our first example, right? Again, completing the square, you can only do it with quadratics. Okay, so we have the equation x squared plus 4x plus 7, okay? The first step says to put x squared and x term in brackets. So don't overthink it. All we're doing, x squared plus 4x, and we put them in brackets, and plus 7, okay? That's all we do. The next step is to make the coefficient of x squared 1, okay? But as you can see here, the coefficient of x squared is already 1, so that step is already done for us, okay? Then we need to add inside the bracket half the coefficient of the x term. So this here is the coefficient of the x term, okay? So what we're doing is we add in half of that, okay? And then we squaring it, okay? So this is what we do. We have x squared plus 4x plus a half of 4, which is 2. So plus 2 all squared, okay? And then we have this here, okay? And then we add in 7, and then we subtracting outside the same value. So whatever we add inside here, in order to keep the equation correct, we need to, whatever we add on, we need to also subtract. So since we add 2 to the power of 2, we need to minus 2 all squared, okay? And then what happens here is that this becomes, we look at this and we look at this, okay? And using this, what we get is x plus 2 all squared, okay? And if we was to expand this out, we would get x squared plus 4x plus 4, which is that, okay? So as you can see, nothing really changed. We just simplified it, and this will always be like this, okay? So we get that, and then we get plus 7 minus 4, because 2 squared is 4, okay? Which is equal to x plus 2 all squared plus 3, okay? I know this first example might seem confusing, okay, but just bear with me. So let's do another example, okay? So now we'll have 2x squared as 2x squared plus 6x plus 11, okay? Again, the first step is to put the x squared and the x term in brackets. So we have 2x squared plus 6x plus 11, okay? What we're doing here now is we need to make the coefficient of x squared 1. So we factor out 2, okay? If we factor out 2, what we get? We get x squared plus 3x, okay? So we just factor in that out of the bracket, okay? Plus 11, okay? So if, as you can see, if we were to expand the brackets here, we would get back this, okay? So the next thing we do is add half the coefficient of the x term. So we have 2 multiplied by x squared plus 3x, okay? Now a half of the coefficient of the x term. So the coefficient of the x term is 3. So a half of 3 is 3 over 2. Okay. So we add 3 over 2 and we're squaring it. Okay. We have that here. Plus 11 now. And now remember, wherever we added out inside, we have to subtract it outside. Okay. In order to keep the equation balanced and proper. So we minus it now. Now the thing here is, because if you really remember for this last example, the value here was 1, okay? So this didn't really matter, but here the outside value is 2. So we take this outside value, so it'll be 2 multiplied by 3 over 2 squared, okay? So again, what we get here is 2 into, so this becomes x plus 3 over 2. So this simplifies to this, okay? It's always x plus something or x minus something. And the other term is here. So if this here is a minus sign inside here, then it would be x minus 3 over 2. With a plus, it becomes x plus 3 over 2 all squared plus 11 minus 2 into 9 over 4. So it becomes 2 into x plus 3 over 2 all squared plus 11 minus 9 over 2. This would be equal to 2 to x plus 3 over 2, okay, squared. And 11 times 2 is 22. 22 minus 9. 22. What is 22 minus 9? 13 minus, sorry, plus 13 over 2. Okay, and this is the result when you complete the square. Okay, again, it's a simple process, don't overthink it. So let's get one with a minus sign in it. So here's what I'll do. So next example, we have 3x squared minus 4x minus 10. Now in this, do not be afraid to use fractions, okay, because you're gonna have instances where you end up with fractions, and do not think you're doing something wrong if you were to end up with a fraction, okay? So doing this one now, let's see what we get. So remember the first step, put the x squared and the x term in bracket, 3x squared minus 4x in bracket minus 10. Then we need to make the coefficient inside the brackets of x squared 1. So it becomes 3 into x squared minus 4 over 3x, okay, minus 10. Okay, now we have to add in half the coefficient of the x term and we square it. So it becomes 3 into x squared minus 4 over 3x. Now we need to add in half of the coefficient of x. But what is the coefficient of x? It is not 4 over 3, but it is minus 4 over 3. So a half of 4 over 3, so we add in a half of minus 4 over 3 is minus 2 over 3. Okay, just think of it like this. We have a half of minus 4 over 3. So this becomes 2, so we get minus 2 over 3. Okay, minus 2 over 3, and we square in that. Okay, minus 10. And remember, whatever we added on inside, we have to subtract it outside. So it becomes minus 3 from here, from this 3. So minus, remember the outside term, which is 3, into multiplied by minus 2 over 3 all squared. Okay, this now becomes 3 multiplied by x. Now we add in or we subtract in this term here, but this term is minus 2 over 3, okay? So therefore it becomes x minus 2 over 3 squared, okay? So you need to keep the minus sign. So basically it is x plus the term in the middle, inside, in half the coefficient of x, okay? Now what this really actually is x plus minus 2 over 3, okay? Remember, a plus and a minus makes a minus. So it becomes x minus 2 over 3 all squared, okay? Minus 10 minus 3 multiplied by minus 2 over 3 squared. If we square something, the minus sign disappears, okay? Because a minus multiplied by a minus is a plus, okay? So it becomes 4 over 9. So this becomes 3 multiplied by x minus 2 over 3 all squared, okay? And that last part works out to be minus 34 over 3, okay? So simple steps. First step here, put the x squared and the x term in brackets, okay? Next one here, factor out the coefficient of x squared, okay, within the brackets. The next step here now is to add half the term of half the coefficient of the x term. Remember, if it is a minus sign, you keep the minus sign, okay? So you get minus 2 over 3 and you're squaring it there too. Don't forget that. And whatever you add inside, you have to subtract outside, okay? So it becomes minus 3 and multiplied by minus 2/3 all squared, because remember we're squaring it on the inside here, so therefore we have to square it on the outside when we subtracting it, okay? Then after that it boils down to this, which is 3 multiplied by x minus half the coefficient of the x term, which we added on inside, okay? And if we was to expand here, okay, if we was to expand that, we would get back that, okay? Try it if you don't believe me. If you want to make sure you do it correct, but at the end of it, this is how it this is how it gets, and then you just simplify for your last step to get the final answer, okay? So let's do our next one. So next example, let's do 4x squared minus x plus 12, okay? Again, in this is basically all the steps you have to do, but once you get a hang of it, you can actually skip some of these steps once you understand what you're doing. So again, 4x squared minus x, put that in brackets, plus 12. Think to yourself, what's the next step? We factor out the coefficient of x squared. So we get 4 into x squared minus x over 4. Okay, so basically divide the x squared term by 4 and we divide the x term by 4. Okay, or a better way to write this to make it more understandable is a quarter x plus 12. Okay, and then remember we add in half the coefficient of the x term, so it becomes 4 into x squared minus a quarter x. Okay, and now we add in a half the coefficient of the x term. What is a half of a quarter? A half multiplied by a quarter is 1/8. But remember, it is minus a quarter. So inside it we put in minus 1/8 squared, okay, plus 12. And then remember, whatever we add inside, we have to subtract outside. So it'll be minus the coefficient in front, which is 4, multiplied by minus 1/8 all squared, okay? And again, this simplifies to 4 into, remember, we take x and we looking at this term here. When we want to know what to write after, we're looking at this. So minus 1/8, and then we put all of this in squared. Again, remember, if we just expand this out, we will get the same thing as above. Plus 12 minus 4 into 1/64, which becomes 4 into x minus 1/8 all squared, and this becomes plus 191 over 16. Okay, and this is basically as complicated as it gets. It doesn't get much more difficult than this. What we need to recognize now is what this data tells us, okay? And what this information tells us is the turning point of the graph, okay? So in a graph, we have here, we can have a graph like this or a graph like this. And what it tells us is this point here, the point on the absolute bottom. And we call that the turning point or the vertex, okay? And what completing the square does is it gives us the coordinate of this turning point. So for a graph of, let's use this example here, okay, we have 3x squared minus 4x minus 10. If we was to plot a graph of this function, okay, what this tells us is the coordinate of the minimum point, okay. So to get the coordinates of the minimum point, we look inside the brackets. We look inside the brackets, okay? We look at this. So what we see is x minus 2/3 is equal to 0. Therefore, x is equal to 2/3. Okay, so basically, whatever sign you have here, the coordinate is the opposite of that sign. So if it's a minus sign, the coordinate is a plus sign. And if it's a plus sign, the coordinate is a minus sign. And this value here tells us the y value. So this is the x value, and this is the y value. Note, this is the y value as it is. You don't have to change the sign of that. So the minimum point of this graph is 2/3, comma, minus 34 over 3. So if you was to plot the graph, the turning point of this graph would occur at this coordinate, okay? Again, for this example here, to find the coordinate, we say x minus 1/8 is equal to 0. Therefore, x is equal to 1/8. Therefore, the coordinates of the minimum point is 1/8, comma, and the y value, we do not change this sign here, okay? 191 over 16. Again, the question on top here, the coordinates, if you could basically, what we said just now, minus 3 over 2, because remember, we switch the sign for the x value, but we don't switch it for the y value. So, comma, 13 over 2. And for this here, it would be minus 2, comma, 3. Okay, so this is what completing the square does. It helps us find the turning point of the graph. And that was it for completing the square. It was relatively simple. Okay, if you all would like to try a few on your own, you could try this one. 5x squared plus 10x plus 13. Okay, and the answer for this one is 5 multiplied by x plus 1 all squared plus 8. So try this one and see if you get the same answer. Okay, and if you're not sure what all you have to do is expand this out. If you expand this out, you're supposed to get back this. Okay, it's as simple as that. Okay, so that was the end of this video on completing the square. Thank you.